Hi everyone, my name is Devin Lloyd and I work for the Alberta Environmental Farm Plan as the EFP Associate Manager. Thank you for attending our webinar. There will be a question period at the end of the webinar, or feel free to ask questions in the chat throughout. Lisa Nadeau, the EFP Manager, will be answering questions throughout the chat. And first off, we will get to the agenda. So today we will be discussing EFP in Alberta. What is an environmental farm plan, also known as EFP? Reasons to complete an EFP, role of technicians, what's involved in completing an EFP, tips for completion, and finally, how to register. The EFP program has been running in Alberta for 17 years and was started in 2003 by the Environmental Farm Plan Company. In 2009, it was returned to the Alberta government, where they ran the program until 2013, when the Agricultural Research and Extension Council of Alberta, also known as ARECA, took over. Alberta launched their first online version in 2015. Alberta EFP is responsible for the delivery of EFPs within the province. We work with counties, municipalities, applied research and forage associations, and Alberta agriculture throughout the province to deliver EFPs. Our work is guided by a stakeholder advisory committee that is comprised of interested stakeholder groups in the crop, livestock, and food industries. We are working with producers and industry groups to support and create awareness for EFP. The EFP is Canada-wide and each province has their own program. So a few reasons to complete an EFP. The EFP is an educational and awareness tool that helps you understand some environmental risks on your farm. It is also great with future planning, as you now know where your environmental risks are and can keep that in mind when upgrading or replacing parts of your operation. It can also help you increase your efficiency on your farm, which can lead to an increase in profit. Having a current EFP is also a prerequisite for some government funding programs, such as the Canadian Agricultural Partnership, Environmental Stewardship, and Climate Change Program. So I'm going to show you that website really quickly. So this is the CAP, Canadian Agricultural Partnership website. So then we go to accepting applications. And go down to the Environmental Stewardship and Climate Change for Producer program. So this is the program that does require an EFP as a prerequisite. There's the terms and conditions and some of their funding categories. Then we just look right here, a valid Alberta Environmental Farm Plan is a prerequisite. Some other reasons to complete an EFP is it can help increase having a current EFP is also a prerequisite. Having an EFP can help improve market access for Alberta grown agri-products by making them look good to outside marketers. There's also more and more industries and buyers that are trying to prove that they are sourcing their raw materials from an environmental steward. Having an EFP meets global standards for sustainable sourcing. It can also be used as a tool for succession planning on a farm with multiple generations. Our trained EFP technicians are here to help and are located throughout the province. Every producer who registers for an EFP will be assigned a technician based off of their county or municipality to help them through the process. Once the EFP is completed, it is submitted to the assigned technician to review and for them to provide feedback on your action plan. While reviewing action items, technicians will often recommend BMPs, which are beneficial management practices that go beyond legislation. They can really set your farm apart and encourage environmental stewardship. It is not the technician's job to be an expert in all the chapters on the EFP, so they will also provide additional resources and organizations that can help you achieve your action plan. Some technicians are available to set up an appointment to complete your EFP one-on-one. Some offer in-person or virtual workshops, or they may provide guidance and answer your questions over the phone. It really depends on what you are comfortable with. You can also receive support from EFP staff. Just reach us through our website. The Environmental Farm Plan is a free and voluntary whole farm self-assessment tool that consists of identifying environmental risks, then creating action plans to mitigate those risks. And then a technician will review the EFP, and once approved, the EFP has a 10-year renewal period. Environmental risks in your EFP are based off of site and soil characteristics, topography, water sources and water bodies, management practices, and potential sources of contamination. Some examples of potential sources of contamination are mixing or storage of pesticides, manure storage, fuel storage, and many others that are addressed in the EFP. Here's a quick overview of the EFP workbook. Remember, this is a whole farm assessment. The workbook consists of 25 chapters. Some of these chapters are mandatory to complete, while others are only completed depending on the type of farm operation. For example, if you don't have any livestock, you would not complete any of the chapters regarding livestock. Or if you don't have any land that's under irrigation, you would not complete the irrigation chapter either. EFP and environmental risk. So the natural characteristics throughout your farm can affect environmental risk associated with surface water contamination, groundwater contamination, erosion by water, and erosion by wind. Natural characteristics include soil type, soil texture, organic matter, topography, wind, and water. Environmental risk is affected by both natural characteristics and management. Some examples of management practices are tilling, location of potential sources of contamination, and the use of cover crops. An example of how natural characteristics and management practices can cause an environmental risk would be cropping through or damaging the vegetation along a small stream or creek. And in the spring, since there is no vegetative cover left, the soil is eroded away into a nearby water body or water source. It is important to note that risk will be different on every farm depending on scale and natural characteristics. So what's environmental risk all about? Environmental risk does not indicate environmental damage. It indicates the potential for environmental damage to occur. Here's an example of an environmental risk associated with fuel storage leaks. You can see that the fuel tank has a leak that has gone unnoticed. The next day, there is a heavy rainfall, and the runoff carries the leaked fuel with it. Due to the slope of the farm, the contaminated water flows towards the well. The contaminated water can then travel down the well casing to the aquifer. The fuel also moves through the gravel pad below and infiltrates the soil. It then has the potential to reach the aquifer as well. Not only is this an environmental risk, but also a health risk, as the aquifer provides drinking water for the farm family. This is a common risk, or this is a common example of environmental risk on farms. The EFP helps you identify the key factors that can increase or decrease the risk, such as the proximity of the well to the fuel tank, the slope around the well, and the presence of secondary containment. Through completing the different chapters in the EFP workbook, you examine whether your management practices align with the natural characteristics of your farm. Once you have identified potential environmental risks on your farm, you will develop an action plan to address those risks by taking actions, compensating factors, using BMPs, also known as beneficial management practices, or monitoring plans. Please remember that sometimes it's not feasible to make big changes right away. For example, if your water well and septic tank are in close proximity, it is a potential for environmental risk. But if they both are in good working condition, it wouldn't be feasible to move your well or septic tank until they are needed to be replaced. A good short-term action would be to continue regular testing and maintenance on your water well and septic tank. A long-term action plan would be that when the time comes to replace your well or septic tank, they are moved further away from each other. So once you have registered for an EFP, there are a few tips for you. Try to stick with it. We have found that if producers don't stick with it from start, they sometimes push their EFP to the back burner. If you are renewing from a binder to an online EFP, it is recommended to use your binder as reference material if you still have it. Having your water well reports and soil test results on hand can help you complete chapters 1 and 2 quicker. So I'm going to show you just the Alberta water well database quickly. So this database has the wells in Alberta. So if you want to find your water well, you click find water wells, and then you can search by legal land description here, and then just click search. The EFP is a whole farm assessment, but you only need to complete chapters that apply to your operation. Don't be afraid to reach out to your technician. They are there to help you. Remember to save often and also use the resources available within each chapter. You can find resources such as BMPs, legislation, and funding in each chapter by clicking on the resource list in the left-hand column. There will also be a green bar at the top of each chapter. By clicking on the paper icon in the green bar, the resources will be split into sections within that chapter. For this example, we are looking at the resources for the all water sources section. Have a quick video to share with everyone.
The environmental farm plan is it's a tool for assessing the environmental risks on your farm. Everybody has got a video camera on their cell phone, and all it takes is seeing you do something once and boom, you know, it's on the internet.
I can see the day where I need to be able to prove and justify what I'm doing to the public, so sort of the right to farm social license issue. Your responsibility doesn't change whether you have a farm plan or not. It's just that the farm plan shows that you've done your due diligence, right? That you've made yourself aware and you have a plan to deal with these things. Ignorance of the issues is not justification for not tackling them.
What I see coming down the pipeline being the fact that we now have retailers and consumer groups at the table talking to us. No longer is our word going to be sufficient in describing and telling our story of what it is that we do every day. With the lack of this tool, we will start to see questions of our industry that we won't like, we frankly won't like.
Tackle the easy stuff, tackle the cheap stuff. There's lots of things we've done here. We've got, for our used oil, we have a secondary containment bin. It cost us $200 at a plastic place. We keep all our used oil pails inside a secondary containment bin.
A common concern with environmental farm plans is that what happens with my information? Is my information safe? Our technicians sign an agreement saying that it's confidential. We can't put that information out there.
The environmental farm plan has been designed from the ground up, from the grassroots up, from a producer's perspective. This isn't a program that you're going to pass or fail. It's a learning tool.
There's a common misconception, and that is the belief that if I've identified all of these issues on my farm as a result of going through the farm plan, that now I am obligated to go out and fix all of these problems in the span of a year or two. And that's simply not the case.
I want to have my ducks in a row and everything in place. I'd rather be the example than be told how to do it. So that just gives me documentation and proof of what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Now you've prepared, you've done some of the groundwork to get yourself involved, and you've done it now before it's an emergency, then you're ready.
So if you're interested in registering for an EFP, you can register online at www.albertaefp.com. You can also book one-on-one help sessions or register for one of our workshops through our website. Depending on your county or municipality, they may also be hosting in-person workshops as well. I'm just gonna run you through how to register right now. So once you get to the albertaefp.com website, this is the home page. So we'll click the menu in the top right-hand corner. It drops down, go to EFP program, and then we can click Start an EFP. Then we click Register to start an EFP here. And then you fill out the information and you will receive a confirmation and activation email to your account. And then you'll be able to sign in and start your webbook. Do we have any questions from anyone? So if we don't have any questions, feel free to contact myself or Lisa for more information, and we can definitely help you register for an EFP or sign up for one of the online workshops. Thank you all for attending.